First, I'm going to read the Toastmasters International recording statement because virtual this virtual Toastmasters meeting is being recorded. Toastmasters International requires we read this statement. By attending this virtual meeting, you agree to the privacy policy of Toastmasters International as well as the unassociated remote hosting service. Some of your personal information, such as name, image, and any shared messages, may be shared with other meeting participants and will be recorded by Toastmasters International, who may use the recording in the future as it sees fit. Your remote attendance hereby discharges Toastmasters International from all claims, demands, rights, promises, damages, and liabilities arising out of or in connection with the use or distribution of said video recordings, including but not limited to any claims for invasion of privacy, appropriation of likeness, or defamation. If you don't want your likeness to be shown, please turn off your camera. We do have three speeches today. Our first speaker is District 100 District Director Angel Larena. Angel is going to talk about transition and planning. It is very important because in the next Toastmaster year, we are going to merge many districts. So, Angel, floor is yours.
Perfect, cool. Oh, Manga, if you want to make me co-host, that'd be nice. In case you have to step away. Okay, everyone, today I'll be talking
Done.
about something people get scared of, and it's transition and succession planning. So I bring up this topic now because this is something we should be doing earlier. As a district director and in the past as a district leader, I've always tried to make sure that the earliest I can get people to do things or moving, that I'm able to help them get ahead of what's coming. And that's the biggest part of this. It's making sure that people are prepared, ready to do what they're taking on, and that they won't feel as lost going into it. So, let's talk about what's going to happen next year, because I think that's an important part to cover, and then we'll talk about the how to do it regularly anyway, right? Because we want to make this a habit, not just a one-time thing. So this year, like this part of the year, the next 3 months and next year are going to be a significant change, maybe not to your member experience, but to Toastmasters International districts as a whole around the world. Some of you may have heard, some of you may not know. All districts in the world, with the exception of a few, are being realigned. So new district boundaries are being drawn. New districts will be formed, and it's changing the makeup of districts. Now, not as impactful for a club, like I said, but when it comes down to the things you're going to have to, navigate in the coming months, it makes a difference. The first thing you're going to be invited to, and some of you may have already gotten this, is an invitation to a district council meeting or two. For instance, in 100, all of you got a message from me yesterday saying, well, all of the voting people got a message saying, hey, You're going to have to sign up for quorum because we have to close out business for 100. But all of you are also going to get another message from me or whoever, telling you that there's also a secondary business meeting because the new district has to have their elections, has to vote, has to plan, right? Part of that succession planning and transitional. By you participating in that, you're directly taking part in the succession planning, in the transitional phases, because you're helping make decisions for the new district. Every time you attend something and vote, you're not just saying, I want Aneta to be division director, or I want Humanga to go forward, or I want Richard to do this. I'm calling it picking on y'all because y'all are in front of me. But you're more saying that I think that this person has a good hold on the future and can lead us to become successful. And the same thing happens within your club, or it could happen within your club. If you continue, if you recruit people early and recognize the potential of the people around you, you can get them in early. So for instance, for my scenario here about, talking about how do we plan for succession in the future and transition, Anetta, you and I are in a club, and I'm gonna pick on you for a little bit. Okay, so I'm an officer of a club, and I'm gonna call it club number 2 or whatever. And Anetta here is a newer member. She's been around for 6 months in our club, and she's shown great promise. She wants to do things. She's always taking a part. She's active. And currently, I would say I'm the VP of education for that club, right? Let's just say that. Well, I've noticed Anetta has shown a knack for planning, getting people involved, and motivating people. So she's very outgoing, getting people moving. And so what I'm going to do is invite Anetta. Anetta, would you like to help me plan some of the future meetings? More than likely, she'll say yes, and it gets her started. But the next thing I'm going to talk to Anetta about is I'm going to say, Anetta, I'm the current vice president of education. I'm not certain that this is in your goals, but I think with your skill set, you can grow from it. And maybe you'd like to work with me beforehand. I can teach you a lot of what you need to do. And then you could take up the role for the next year. And that way, and then, yep, see, Anetta's already clapping. Anetta's just say, yes, I already know. But the thing that's going to happen here is that once Anetta says yes, I'm not doing this, fairly close to the deadline. I would start this in March or April, kind of where we are now. It's, say, Anetta, come work with me, let me teach you the ropes, see if you like it. And then as Anetta's doing that, Anetta's going to learn how to become the vice president of education. She's going to learn, what are we all doing? She's going to be taking notes. She's going to be like, oh, I could do this. Maybe I can change this up a little bit. It might help. And then by the time July 1st comes, she's feeling readier to take the role. You notice I didn't say ready because almost everyone is never ready for everything, but we can be prepared. We can plan, we can put things into place, we can have a little bit of experience under our belt to make us a bit more confident in the role. And so by doing this in your club, you're not only going to teach people what they're going to be doing, you're also going to develop people to who will want to do these things. And by doing this with your newer members, getting them involved, getting them to be part of part of the internal workings, you're also creating a retention key, a key piece of that retention effort, where it's getting them involved in your community. So if Aneta was just sitting in our club and she was coming to meetings, doing the things, she'd probably really like it. She'd probably continue renewing. But if I ask Aneta to work with me and we get to working on that together, she's gonna feel like really like a part of the system. And I say the system, but you know what I mean, the part of the community and what's happening. So it's going to deepen her bond with the club. And like I said, this goes outside of this. This can transfer into other parts of your life. This will transfer into district environment if you're leading in the district. It's important to do these steps because then people feel more involved, they are more prepared. When it comes time for them to take it over, they can. So whenever we think about this, transitional and succession planning start now. The other thing you want to do as an officer, as a leader, as anyone working with other people, ask yourself, what could I have done better? And it's not saying you didn't already do well, because we have to love ourselves and be compassionate with ourselves and say, hey, I'm doing the best I can with everything going on, with what's happening, and that's great. There are some things I wanted to do, but I couldn't get done right now. But maybe we could do that in the future. So take an assessment of that. Ask yourself, what did we do this year in our club? What did we do this year in our district or in our home? Because it could go to your home life, right? And what do I want to do next year? Or what do I think could improve the overall experience? And write those down. Because like I said earlier, Netta, as she's working with us, she's getting a little list together of the little things she sees she could try out and maybe do. So she's getting fresh ideas. But then you're going to have some of the ideas from being in it and working on it that can, help. Then you meet up with Annetta and you be like, Annetta, as VP of Education, I wish we'd have had more future planning. Maybe we can encourage newer speakers to speak up more. And Annetta's going to be like, I think we should have some themed meetings and some fun in our meetings. And so both of you together are going to create that plan of what comes next. And then as she goes into the future, she will have an idea of what to do. She'll already have some plans in place. She'll kind of know she already knows the basics of what needs to be done. Now she adds in. Now she makes her contribution. And I'm going to say you want to continue doing this with all of your newer members. I'm going to encourage you to find even the smallest of things to do. Whether it's, Umanga, you can open up the meeting next week. Something's, just tidbits for everyone. Have everyone actively participating because it makes them part of the whole. The other thing I'm going to mention about, this topic is as a club, I would suggest everyone sit down and talk about 3 to 5 years from now. Are you a club that only sees yourself alive for the next year? If anyone answered yes to that, you need to talk to me. Um, because you should not answer yes to only 1 year. If you should see your club around for the long term, right? Your club should be there perpetually in the future. So I want encourage everyone to sit with your officers, sit with your members, and talk about what does the next 3 to 5 years look like? What would your members and you like to see? and draft up a plan. So I've a lot of districts do this. Toastmasters International has a strategic plan. I think it's every 2 years they create a new one. And a club can do this as well. Districts can do this. You could do this at home. What do I want my kitchen to look like in 2 years? You never know, right? Like what do you want to happen, right? But creating a vision, creating a plan or something that says this is what I want our future to look like will give Umanga 5 years from now time to say, what did I want to do back then? Oh, let me go look at that and see what I'm doing. Or if Annetta comes in the next year and she's like, I don't even know where to start, she has a guide already created based on what the members wanted that can say, oh, let's work on this year. Let's do that. So that's, I think, a great thing to do once you've started, working for it. So far, to, give brief recap of where we are right now. First off, you're going to get people involved because you can't really do much if you don't have anyone active. So if you have members in your club, if you have people around you in life, if you have the district environment, tap those people around you and say, hey, can you do this one little task for me? Can you do this? Or would you like to work with me on this new idea I had? Get them involved. The second thing is teach them how to do it. Don't just tell them to do it. Don't just throw them out to the water. Teach them. Teach them what you're asking them to do early. And then the third thing is plan for the future. What do you want to do in 3 to 5 years? By asking and planning these three things, you're going to create an environment where people are openly communicating. And succession planning, which is one of the biggest things in any environment, because you want to make sure that if anything happens, things keep going, is going to naturally keep flowing. It's going to keep rolling down. It's like a snowball. The more you do it, the bigger it gets, the more people get involved, and the better it turns out. So keep it rolling, keep it moving. Everyone will start getting involved and doing more. Let's see. Let me pause here because I'm thinking about this topic, and I want to ask, is there any questions so far? Because I don't want to lose anyone along the way. Chris?
Yeah, I had a good. Basically, I think I agree with what your thought process in terms of thinking ahead. But the question that I would like to kind of really reinforce what you said was the 3 to 5 years. Toastmasters members do not join in the assumption that they're going to stay for 3 to 5 years. They're first trying to get their bearing with the club, and the club is able to provide the environment where they feel that hey, they are part of it and they're gaining something from it, and then they experience the officers as what they do, then quite likely I think they're likely to think in terms of 3 to 5 years, and also that gives them an opportunity to try out the officer role, as you said, which is a good foundation for them to think long term. So I totally agree with your process that the vision is what really gets them to stay longer, not necessarily the one-off 1 year kind of deal. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, no problem. Thank you. And yeah, I agree. 3 to 5 years. So, like Chris said, most members join, and then within about 2 years, I think it's 18 months to 2 years, it's a turnover, right? People come, they get their growth, things happen in life, things, move on, they may go to another club, things happen, right? One thing that we've learned, especially me, working in the district environment, is that the more integrated they are into the day-to-day activities in the club or in the district, the longer they tend to stay. A district leader tends to become a member for life normally, especially if they've made it to district director or beyond. You don't really see many of them leaving. But the same thing could be within a club. Once you get them involved, once you get them active, they're more likely to stay longer. But in terms of what Chris is talking about, even with a turnover, right? Even if people leave, the benefits of having that plan in place is that when someone new comes in, when they're not sure what to do, they have something to look at. They have a historical document that says this is what the members wanted. And they're able to say, oh, now I understand. Now I can know where to go from here. But that's the balance of it. You're giving the newer people something to work with, and at the same time, you're giving them a reason to stay. The more involved they are, the longer they will stay. And I say this, the other thing to remember here is not just about leadership or getting them involved, but the more that a person feels like they're part of the community, and the more that they feel like they're part of something, that it's more friendships, it's more their family, the longer they're going to stay. The number one feedback I got when I asked at least our district members why they renewed or why they stay, they have a couple of different reasons, but almost everyone said the same thing in some way. I stay because of the people around me. I stay because I have my friends here. I stay because I get to see Annetta and Richard every week. I stay because I get to interact with them and it feels like home. So the more that we can give that to the newer members, the more likely they are to feel the same way. I think it's Treka, or is it Treka?
Hi, thank you. Yes, it's Teresa.
Tresa,
I,
thank you.
I just want to add, I think what happens is a lot of times when I attend these meetings, we think about the recruitment aspect of it and how we want to continue the continuity of a viable organization. But I think the more important and to me that often feels like an MLM marketing approach as a person who has been courted by several people, and nobody ever asks me what my goals are and why I joined Toastmasters and what I want out of my experience and how they can help me get there. And I think that the narrative that's happening at the Toastmaster level is completely wrong as far as like, how do we help people achieve the goals that they want? And what I was thinking about is like, back when I was a regular employee, I wanted to get promoted, but I didn't have any leadership skills. Like Toastmasters is a fantastic place to cut your teeth and learn and fail and grow without having it impacting your job. And I've never heard anybody talk about that in Toastmasters. I've never heard anybody like make that correlation to how that impacts me in my career and in my life. And so I think that, if you study the story brand model by Donald Miller, he talks about what's your customer going to get out of the experience. And I would really love it if Toastmasters put the emphasis on what's the customer, what's our people getting, and not what they can do for you, but what like how you can help build them up. I think that's and I'm specifically saying that because I see Richard Peck in the room, and and as leaders, like I don't work for a boss. I work for the boss who can grow me in a
Yeah.
specific way. So anyway, I wish we would change the narrative and think about that.
Yep. And so I'll make a few comments here. I can at least vouch for this year. The messaging I heard is changing from international. Aletta made it very clear at the beginning of the year. It's not just about the numbers. We're trying to help other people grow. We're trying to impact other people's lives and bring them up just as much as we got brought up. So I can say that there are some people thinking about it at the top. I can't vouch for everyone. But what I will say also is that it's very true what you're saying, and that's what a lot of people's experiences are. And so part of it, and I hate to say it this way, but part of it will be on us as the people who are seeing it, knowing that there needs to be a change. Are the people in district leadership or the people who have a voice. We have to start getting out there more and telling people why, or changing the narrative, as I would say. Just like you shared here today about, what you've experienced. I think it's important for us to go and visit other clubs, go visit them and tell them why and share with them, because I think that it's so, for instance, in membership recruiting, and this is something I've been trying to do this year in our district. And Netta's gonna laugh when she hears this because she's heard it so many times. I tell people it's not just about the numbers. Don't recruit just because you're trying to recruit, but start with the why. Well, why are we trying to get more people aside from the turnover and the numbers? And so, what I have people start with is, why did you join and what brought you here? And normally, a lot of people give me different reasons, but we all join for some kind of growth. Whether it's like me, I'm autistic, so I don't understand as much of the social interaction as other people. And I struggled with knowing, appropriate times to say things like that. I was able to learn a lot of that in Toastmasters, especially being in leadership, because it put me in positions where I needed to learn it. And then there's other people out there who just wanted to feel confident enough to get up and speak in front of people. But you're hitting also exactly on another point of that clubs don't really ask why you joined. They don't ask anymore what brought you here, what are your goals, and how can we help you do that? A lot of clubs now are saying, this is what we do, you fall into that, or there's not really a place for you. And I think, from my perspective at least, there needs to be a blending of it. Clubs should have an identity. They should know who they are. They should know who they serve and cater to. But at the same time, when a member joins, they shouldn't think a member's joining just because of the same reasons they did. They have to ask these members this. They have to know why.
I really
So
appreciate
yeah,
that. And I just asked somebody why they joined Toastmasters, and the guy
yep.
told me he wanted to be an elected official
Yep.
eventually. And I was like, great, the contest route is not for you. Like, quit trying to force everybody down a common path. He's looking for something different. And now that I know what he's looking for, I can, send him into the appropriate pathway. Help him, and so I think it's really important to ask, like, why are you here? How can I help you? So anyway, I appreciate that.
No, you're good. It's also, and I'm gonna say this, it's also very important to continuously ask this, because I can guarantee you the reason I'm in Toastmasters right now, or what I'm working on right now, not necessarily the whole reason, has evolved since I joined. I joined because I needed to learn how not to say certain things that were in my mind and probably shouldn't come out the way they were coming out, right? That was not the best environment. I just joined the corporate world. But the reason I'm in now and the things I've learned since being in has evolved me, that now I'm working on other things. And so, exactly what you're saying, if someone's not looking to necessarily do, competition related things, you're not going to really recommend them the contest. If someone wants to become a professional speaker, you may recommend the accredited speaker path instead. If someone wants to work, like you said, in a political environment, where it is definitely more public speaking, you might have them work on persuasive influence, or those types of communication where they have to share a vision, they have to persuade people behind what they're doing, and you're going to put them in environments where they have to do that. If someone's needing to learn how to speak, and I'm going to say this because I told all the district leaders that this year, if you're trying to learn how to speak to many different types of people, you may recommend them going into district leadership, because a lot of people think that district leadership is only about learning how to be a leader. But the communication side of it is that, as a district director, I have to talk to 2,000 or more people. They all have different perspectives and opinions. They all have different backgrounds and things, different ways they see the world. And so learning how to curate my communication to where it reaches a broader perspective of them is a very big challenge. It's how do I have what I'm trying to say be understood in the best way possible to the most amount of people, And I've talked to our deck about this because I wanted them to think about that as they went through their journey, that leadership is not always just a leadership journey, it's a communication journey. So yeah, no, I wrote down what you said though, because I think it's important. And I think the other thing of what you said about being translational, translating what this does for you. You can be a mother of 3 children and you're a leader, trust me. If you've ever tried to get 3 kids to do anything, it's like an uphill battle constantly. It's probably worse than trying to get volunteers to do it, because they're your own children. They don't want to do anything. You tell them. But I've like I told people before, as a parent, and I don't personally have kids, but I've helped raise kids. I've had kids around me my whole life. What I told them was that we don't always want to go with and I grew up in the South, where it was, I birthed you, so you do what I say. Um if you talk back, you're gonna get this hand. But we don't want to lead with that, right? We want to try to figure out what's in it for our people around us, and then we want to influence them to do it on their own. Because if we can have them do it on their own, they're more likely to continue doing it without us asking them over and over. And this goes perfectly into the transition and succession planning, because if you know that there's an issue in your club or clubs, like for instance, if you noticed that maybe we aren't asking members why they're here anymore. We don't really know why we're here as a whole, right? Maybe it's time to bring up those conversations. Maybe it's time to sit down with the club and do that. And one thing, yep, moments of truth is very important. Anytime you have a moment of truth, then I highly recommend you have someone external to your club do it. You definitely want a third perspective. You don't want someone in your club necessarily to do the evaluation. But the other thing that I've been talking to people about this year, and I think when I look at a lot of the struggling clubs, mind you, and the reason I did this is because I have an online club that has 45 members, added 13 members this year, actively working pathways, already hit Smedley distinguished. I have the same thing in an in-person club. But then I have clubs on both sides struggling. And I said, what's going on? Why are these clubs struggling? One of the things I figured out this year that I've been trying to teach them is that no one knows who they are anymore. The identity's gone. So, it's very much okay to be a general Toastmasters club, as this is what we do, right? But if you're not able to tell people why you're there, or who you are, or what brings your club together, you're not going to be able to keep going. And if you ask a lot of people, why are you a Toastmaster or why are you in this club? A lot of them have different answers. They don't really know how to answer it and they stumble over it. And so one thing that I've been working with our clubs on, and I've been encouraging everyone around me to do, is talk to your club and figure out who you are and a way to answer why we exist. You know, for instance, I could be a regular Toastmasters club, and I say that because like we have specialty clubs, we have all of those things out there too. It could be my differences is that I get, I primarily cater to working people and we meet in the evening. That way people who worked all day could attend a meeting and be able to grow outside of work. It could be very simple as that, but it's all about knowing who you are and knowing why people are there. And that's why it's important to ask your members consistently every 6 months to a year, why are you still here? What are you working on? Umanga, what is your goal for the next 6 months, right? What are you actively trying to get out of this? And then it's also very important to ask, why are you still here? And by here, I don't mean in Toastmasters, I mean in our club. What is keeping you in our club? Or as a new member, what made you decide to join? What inspired you to join? The other thing I think can fall under your succession and transitional planning and can help if you don't already have something in place like this, or if you do, great, keep it going. Have a way to assign buddies or mentors in your club. As a person joins, say that Anetta and Chris are joining the club. Remember, we have a fake club right now. Umanga and Richard here are both in this club as well. Anetta joined because she heard Umanga speak and she loved Umanga speaking and it inspired her to join. Chris just said, I really wanted a Toastmasters club and it seems to fit me, right? So it works. So what I'm going to do, Anetta, because I know who inspired her to join, I'd be like, Umanga, would you like to work with Anetta, get her involved, teach her the ropes, show her how to get involved and get her through her first 2 levels? Umanga, of course, is gonna be like, heck yeah, I'm gonna do that. Why would I not? And then that increases the community because now Annette has someone she's working with. They're gonna become more friends together, and Annetta's gonna start progressing and working through her growth with someone guiding her. Chris, Chris would say, I really like that guy Richard, or I don't really know who I like. Either way. And I can reach out to Richard. I know Richard's been here a minute and he has a lot of good insight. And I'd be like, Richard, would you mind guiding Chris through the next couple weeks and teach him
Strangely,
the ropes?
believe it or not, Angel, I knew Richard from 20 years ago.
I
And
know, both of you.
so the very
That's
fact that
funny.
we know each other for the past 20 years tells you that there can be a relationship built within Toastmasters that lasts a long, long time. Not because you just happen to meet somebody at a club meeting, but the way you interact with the individual, the way you learn from them, the way they learn from you helps both of you grow. And that growth never goes away, it stays with you. And over a period of time, you become the mentor that helps new members, new guests learn what can happen in a Toastmaster meeting. What I always have found is that the Toastmaster meeting itself is the area where things happen. If that meeting is held in a proper manner, meaning that guests are welcome, the meeting has an agenda, the actual speeches are taken from the Toastmaster manuals. If those things happen consistently, quite likely, and you have a good table topic session, guests love it. And that's the reason members join Toastmasters. And that's the reason clubs last 15 years, 20 years, and so on. And to me, the fact that if you can interact with an individual in a Toastmaster meeting, people tend to stay much after the meeting is ended. Reason why
Yeah.
is because they're learning. They want to continue the learning process. And to me, that is what we need to focus on as a club that can continue to exist way beyond the 1, 2, 3, 4 years we are talking about right now. And I think that's why you
Oh
have
yeah.
clubs that have officers that really grow the members to become leaders. And so to me, that basically highlights what you just talked about, Angel.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm saying this from personal experience, by the way. I'm gonna share a story here really quick because and she already knows this that I was halfway a stalker, and it's okay. She already is like one of my closest best friends, and I consider her family. Um, I think I was an area director when she was running for international director. Karen Lucas. I seen her give a interview, and it's funny because I just joined Toastmasters December 2020. It was during COVID, and I was outreaching. I think I had visited clubs all around the world because I thought it was just so intriguing how you could get different experiences, depending on where you were. And for some reason, I came across her speaking, and I was enthralled. She was like, in my mind, she was so smart, and that there was just a way about her that I wanted to learn from. So I added her on Facebook. And she added me back, which gave me permission to go look through her Facebook. And I found out where her club was. And I went and attended her club because I was, like I said, I was in other clubs, but she inspired me because it was different than what I had seen. And everyone, a lot of people have this throughout their lives, people who inspire them altruistically and make them want to do things, right? So I went and visited her club. I joined her club. People asked me why I joined. I looked and I said, because of her. Um, and I want her to be my mentor. Um, and later, as I was working with her, we found out we had a lot in common. We became very close friends, and I consider her to be like a family member to me. But she was responsible for bringing, I joined District 100 because I joined her club, obviously. When I was not in a mindset of wanting to run for club growth director, they're the ones who encouraged me, her and Mark. They sat me down and they said, well, let's talk about, are you ready? Do you think you can do this? And then the answer became yes, obviously, because I'm here. But without having someone like that, I don't think I would be where I am today, right? And, whether it's, someone that you've seen from an international standpoint, whether it's just another member in a club that you witness speaking, reach out to them because if it inspires you and it motivates you, grab onto it because it's going to help you learn and evolve and grow. And I guarantee 90, I'm not going to say everyone, 95% of people in our organization would gladly say yes to mentoring and helping people, especially if you reach out to them. The other 5% is normally because they have something happening in their life and it's not exactly the right time, right? But normally most people in here will help you and will grow with you and they could become some of your best friends. And it just starts, with that. So I'm gonna wrap up with this that we're all struggling with, who can take our spot next? What can we do to grow? Where do we want to go, right? So that's why today I took some time to talk about, things are changing in the next 3 months. Districts are shuffling around. Uh, be aware that these leaders that are coming in to help guide our clubs are facing challenges that maybe a lot of district leaders haven't faced before. They're not only stepping into a role they've not done, they're now starting a brand new district and trying to get everything in order. If, there may be hiccups along the way, but let's go with empathy and kindness, and let's, teach them. If they, like, if Anetta was coming in, I don't know, but if Anetta does and she's like, maybe there's something she could do better, instead of me getting mad at her, I could say, Anetta, hey, this might be done this way, and then it'll help you a little. Because like I said, we're all going into a new environment next year. It's a new situation. There's going to be people we don't know. And that's a beautiful thing. Because sometimes it's the people we don't know that are going to give us the best insights. So as a club, as a club leadership, from your perspective, the best things you can do is talk to your members about, why they're there, what do they want, and then talk about what they want to see in the next 3 to 5 years. Put that into a plan, start having people work together, creating that community. And, as I say this, if you have questions about how to do this within a specific environment, because we're talking about 3 different types of clubs here, online, in person, and hybrid, reach out to me. I'm available. I will talk to everyone. And I did get some of the messages, so I'll reach out to you later this weekend. But reach out to me if you have questions, because there are ways. So in person, obviously, like Chris said, hang out after the meeting. Everyone's kind of there. But sometimes if you're in an online club and you have members all over, maybe you plan those meetups. Maybe you plan a little game time on Zoom to where everyone can hang out. Or you create a WhatsApp group where everyone can talk and share things. There's many different ways to create connection and community. But it starts with, what do we want? Why are people here? And where do we want to be? And then I'll leave you with this, because like I said, recently I was watching a psychologist talk about this. Instead of telling yourself to be better every other day or every day, acknowledge that you did very well with where you are now, and say, what can I do next? Instead of what can I do better? Because we did the best with what we have, and there's no going back. And by adding a little bit of kindness and love for yourself, you'll be less stressed, less burnt out, and hopefully a little bit more motivated to do the next thing. And remember, it's never over until it's over. And as long as you're breathing and you have your eyes open, it's not over. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Remember to renew your dues if you have not renewed them. And please get those in. Appreciate everyone. Thank you, Manga.
Thank you so much, Angel. We do have a 12 minutes because our next speaker is Richard E. Pack. Richard is here. It is going to start at 9 a.m. in Pacific time, but we have some minutes. If you have any question, please ask from Angel. This is open for question and answer session.
Angel, I have a question on the transition.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I know the transition is going to be pretty short because you're already in the month of April, coming close to April, and July 1 is the transition date. So those clubs that are moving from one district to the other, what are the plans to inform them, to keep them appraised and make the transition? So if you can briefly tell us what it is, that'll be helpful.
Remember that And I'm going to say this from my perspective, transition never starts on July 1st. It starts on right now, April 1st, whenever. All the clubs in District 100 have already gotten messaging from me, at least, in the last couple months. I sent out a message in January telling everyone where their club would end up. There have been minute changes to that. I informed any club that was rearranged or moved. You're all, like I said, I'm working very closely with Don Griffith, past international director, who's the Group 2 transition chair, because we have a lot of the setup here to run online meetings and things like that. So I've offered to help with it. So in the next couple months, every new district will have a new business meeting. You will all get notified if you're vice president of education or a president or a deck member whose vote's going there. You will be notified of when that meeting is, how to participate, and things like that. I can say, Chris, from the perspective of the ones that we're doing in Group 2, it's going to be very similar to what we've done in District 100 for the past couple years. What's going to happen is you're going to vote on alignment. You're going to vote on the incoming leadership team. Those are the two things you vote on. After that, and those will take place in April and May. What I've recommended to everyone who I know is running, and I've told the district this, try to have everything wrapped up by May 31st or May 30th. I don't remember how many days right now because my brain is off. But whatever the last day in May is, I think it's 31 because June is 30. Try to have everything in your current district wrapped up by then. And try to be as successful as you can by then because, and this is something I've told anyone running for next year that I know of, I would like to give them all of June. Because remember, they're not only going into a district where it's a handoff, they're starting a new district. They have to make all of the decisions around policies. They have to make all of the decisions around how things will be ran. And it's not like I said, it's not like they're coming into this with, hey, Umanga's PKD. It's not like I'm the district director handing things over to Umanga. This is how we've always done it, and it's going to continue. You can make whatever changes you want. They would be going into it with everything is new. They have nothing in place yet, right? So that's the major difference. So that's why I say give it a little bit of grace. The other thing that I witnessed, and I know TI is working very hard for this not to happen this time, was that last time no payments could be processed for the month of July. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, so don't take it as that's going to happen this time. But it could happen, right? So that's why I said we don't know everything coming for us. So it's good to be just prepared, for anything, be adaptable. But from a club standpoint, not a lot will change. You're still going to meet, you're still going to have your regular meetings. The only thing that'll change is like kind of where your club is in the district, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
And like I said, if for some reason like the payment system's broken because they're transitioning, we would let you know. Like we will definitely be very proactive talking to international and they will be sharing all of that. But I did ask the World Headquarter team when we talked about it in district leader training about the district alignments. I did ask, will it be, down that entire month of July like it was for the other districts who did it the year before? They said that they don't know, but they're trying to not have it happen. So they're making preparation. They're trying to make sure it goes as smooth as possible. But as we know, anything can happen. Things break all the time. Anetta, you had a question?
It's been answered, so thank you
Okay.
very much.
Yeah.
We do have a few more minutes. So, Anita, if you have more questions, floor is open. If anyone has a question.
Richard.
Richard has a question.
Yeah. I would just like to say that for this past month, I've been reviewing all of my Toastmasters experience, and I've been since 1992 in Toastmasters. And what I did not realize was, despite the paths and all of the communication and leadership skills that you learn, Toastmasters does not have a path on bullying and how to get it resolved. But I realized that because of the communication and leadership skills that I've learned, somebody had said something that was not nice about me at a restaurant, and I was able to correct that. And it was because I was able to correctly assess what had gone on and got it resolved. And so to me, that's a valuable skill that I would not have learned had I not been in Toastmasters, to be able to assess the situation and to get that situation corrected. So I thought I would just pass that on.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there isn't, so as much as like we'd love to see something on that, there isn't one training that can ever prepare you for handling that kind of situation. I think exactly what you said is very prudent whenever you experience that type of situation, is taking an understanding, using your communication skills, saying this isn't right. So Richard, I would say, and for anyone who's experiencing this, there are a lot of resources on conflict resolution, which can cover part of that, right? Conflict resolution is a very good topic to go over if you've never had to deal with it. So, but good job. Yeah, that's taking an understanding is probably the hardest step anyone can take, because understanding where someone's coming from can help you navigate it. We have like 3 minutes. Does anyone have any other questions? Cool. I'm happy with that. So, okay, before I go, because we only have a couple minutes, I'm going to just remind you once again, because we are at this time of year, renew your memberships if you have not. I'm going to keep on reminding people, renew your memberships, encourage those around you to renew as well. Don't just say pay your money. I know some of us can default to that. What we want to do is remind them why they're investing in their future, why they are, doing this, and that will help them continue forward. And, sometimes remembering why you paid can help share with someone else. But have a wonderful weekend. See you all in April. Well, some of you in April, some of you in May. Okay, Manga.
Thank you so much, Angel, for wonderful thoughts and very nice discussion about transition and planning.